Hello everyone, guys, girls, friends, families, haters, dogs, cats, gerbils, kids in the back of the car, and the people on the bus hearing this when you accidentally play out loud. I'm Rach.
And I'm Faith. Welcome to the Is It Normal podcast.
We love it that you're here.
Episode 9, baby!
Hello everyone.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. We have cups of tea. Feel free to put the kettle on. Join us for a good old chat.
Yeah.
So, Faith, what is your show and tell for today?
My show and tell is a little video that I saw on Instagram, of course. Which should I play it to you?
Yeah.
If you didn't catch that video, which you might not have, I don't know, we'll try and put it on the video version. If you're not watching the video version, essentially, there's like a couple of classical music players in I think it was Covent Garden.
Yeah, I think so.
And I have no idea what piece of music they're playing, but they're playing like a fairly recognisable classical piece of music. One of them's got like a cello, like pick it up and like start running around the table, like dancing to the music kind of thing. And this little like toddler starts joining in and follows them around, and it's so cute. But the video says something like, "This is why we need live music in public spaces." Yeah. I just love that, like, it's a classical piece of music, and yet this kid is like wanting to join in. I just think that's really cute.
It was really
There's no deep message in it. Yeah. It's just cute.
Cute. Just joy in it.
Like, yeah, literally.
Joy. I do love live music. I think it brings so much joy.
Yeah, definitely.
And experience.
Yeah.
It's lush.
Cute.
Okay.
What about yours?
Mine's a video I saw on Instagram. I'm going to play it now. Hopefully you can kind of get the grasp of it, and I'll like tag the person whose video it was. Yeah.
Think of 3 Instagram stories that you saw yesterday. Oh, wait. Think of the text on the screen. Could you recreate it? Okay, maybe 2 stories from yesterday. Nope. Okay, 1. Didn't think so. Moral of the story is that nobody cares. If you can't remember what you saw, no one is remembering what you posted. You only care about what people might think about you. But the truth is, they literally aren't thinking at all. They're scrolling, just like you. It's really not cringe. Just post. We live on a rock. Goodbye. Think of 3.
We live on a rock.
Yeah, like we live on a rock. No one actually cares. That gives us freedom to kind of post what we want. Like, people are not critiquing the stuff that you post. Like, they literally can't remember.
Yeah.
And if you ask me, like, I had to save that.
Yeah.
to remember it, to then talk about it. Because I think the amount of information we obviously get on such a daily basis is huge. So I can't remember like any stories that I saw yesterday or any posts that I thought, ooh, or do you mean like it's just not like no one's judging us as much as we think they are. And yeah, like they're just scrolling like mind-numbingly just as we are, kind of thing. So I don't know, like, yeah, post what you want, be who you want to be, like, don't deep it too much, like, have fun.
Yeah, don't you also think as well, though, that it almost, like, gives us freedom to, like, it almost highlights how little we remember of social media.
Yeah. And
how actually if you spend, like, not you specifically, but, like, if someone spends, like, 2 hours scrolling through Reels, the next day you're probably not going to remember any of them anyway. So, like, it feels quite rewarding in the moment, doesn't it? Because it's, like, the dopamine of, like, getting new things and stuff. But in reality, you're probably not even going to remember it. So, like, not that makes it inherently not worthwhile, but, like, you know, I think we worry about missing out if we don't see stuff on social media. But, like, you're not going to remember it tomorrow anyway. Yeah. So, like, why not miss out and go and do something with friends instead? Because you probably will remember that. Yeah. More so, even if not completely.
I'm trying to choose podcasts or, like, longer YouTube videos. For example, I'm going away in like some time for some days, and I like looked on TikTok about videos about it, and it was all like 30 seconds, like bam, 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 this is the place to go, this is blah, 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 and I was like, I'm overwhelmed, and now the list of places I have to go is really long, and so I was like, right, so I went on YouTube like vlog, and it's like half an hour of like heard, like, you know, the wandering streets, and they went to this place to eat, and like gave me more of like a vibe of what I wanted to experience. and like a lasting imprint.
Yeah.
So like I'm trying to consciously choose like podcasts, vlogs, that kind of thing.
Just like
because
longer form.
Yeah, because I don't find them as like stimulating or like overstimulating.
Yeah.
Because you can literally just spend an hour.
Yeah.
Like scroll and not even realise. Whereas like when a YouTube video done, if it's longer and when it's finished, I'm like, okay, that video's finished now, I can move on to do something else.
Yeah.
Like, what's my next task?
Yeah.
Whereas like, because there's no end point with like TikTok, Instagram Reels and stuff, because you're going so quickly, there's no like end point of you have to like come out of yourself almost and be like, right, I'm done now, or like something stops you.
Yeah. Do you ever have those videos come up when you're scrolling that are like, this is it, this is the last video that you're going to watch today? I'm literally like, no.
I'm like, no, I will. Just let me do one more, because obviously that doesn't count, because that's just telling me to get off my phone. So I'll just do one more, because that, like, obviously that didn't count as a real video.
I'm literally like, don't tell me what to do.
I'm a grown up.
Honestly. So silly.
It is so silly. But yeah, have freedom, do what you want to do, post what you want to post, like...
Within reason.
Yeah, don't hurt anyone. Like, don't be a mass murderer. Like, that's just not great at all. We're not
Understatement of the century. Don't be a mass murderer. It's not great.
We're not advocating for do what you want to do. Like, just within reason, people. Within reason.
It's almost like going back to neutral, isn't it? This isn't like completely disregard any kind of boundary and go like the other way. This is like, if you overthink these things and if you're a bit like in your head about it, you just don't need to be.
Yeah. Use your words wisely and caringly and carefully. But no one's really going to remember, like, if you put a photo up of your dog or... Like, do you mean balance, as always, but just, like, feel some freedom to be like, you don't actually have to overthink putting a picture of your dog up on social media.
Yeah. So, show and tell, complete. Let's talk about some polls.
Let's. Show us the poll!
This week, we have a poll from episode 5, which was, is it normal to be scared of growing older? Our poll was, I'm scared of growing older. And the answers were yes, I don't think about it, or I'm looking forward to it. And 2/3 of people said, I don't want to think about it. 1/3 said yes.
So no one said I'm looking forward to it?
No one said they're looking forward to it.
How interesting. So it's normal to be scared of growing old, I guess? Or it's normal not to think about it yet, or whatever.
Yeah.
Because our listeners are fairly young, aren't they? Like.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
But yeah. Polls done.
So speaking of your guys' opinions, we're actually going to talk about an email that we've had from a listener called Zach, and the question that he wrote in is
it normal to feel like you want to treat yourself when it comes to food, dependent on the day of the week, mostly Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
So from this question, so we're obviously gonna answer that question, but then it kind of led us to like a bigger topic of, is it normal to view food as bad or good? So that's the question this week.
Yeah.
Is it normal to view food as bad, or label food as bad or good?
Yeah. So in terms of Zach's actual question, wanting to treat yourself dependent on the day of the week, what do you think?
I mean, day of the week, time of the month, like time of the year, like
time of the day.
If I've done something really good, if I'm having a bad day, like. I think as a kid we'd have like Friday night movie night, and we'd go to Blockbusters. Like, we'd rent a film, we'd get like popcorn and some like minstrels and Maltesers or whatever. So like Friday night was like treat night kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think that was like kind of reserved for the weekend. Like it was almost like a treat for getting through the week. I don't know. Do you mean like? But I think, I think it's quite normal to have that opinion, because I don't know, you've got more time to make nicer meals, or you've got time to go out to restaurants, or you've got time to see friends, and a lot of socialising is eating or drinking.
Yeah.
So I think I would say it's quite normal to have like a weekend as, you know, calories don't count, or like I know people who have like really restricted calories Monday through Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday don't count their calories and have like whatever they want. Also, like, trigger warning, if you are struggling with food at the moment, or if, like, this isn't really a conversation that's going to help your journey with food, and what that looks like for you, like, maybe don't listen to this episode. Just because I know a few people who are going through some difficult food journeys, and actually this might not be, it might be really helpful, or it might not be helpful at all.
Yeah.
But if you read the description, and figure out if that's something that you think is going to benefit you or not, would be probably a good idea. If comparison is an issue, like, probably don't listen. Just want to put that out there. But yeah, I think it's really normal. I think as a society it's really normal, and I think as, like, growing up it was quite normal. In my current life it probably is normal for me, but not on a conscious level, on the level of I see people on the weekend generally, so that's like when most of my socialising would happen. So therefore, like, I'm not going to be thinking about, like, food in the sense of, like, I'm maybe not cooking meals because maybe I'm going out and seeing friends and we're having, like, coffees or lunches or dinners or, like, movie nights, or, like, Sunday I might go to my brother's for a roast, and do you mean, like, stuff like that? So I wouldn't say it's like a conscious thing, but I would say it probably does just so happen that my calorie intake would be higher on a weekend. What about you?
I think the answer is yes, it is normal. I don't think that's my experience particularly. So I think, like, on a generic level, I think, it's pretty normal for people to want to treat themselves over the weekend. I also think that it comes with a unsaid message and, like, underlying the question that, like, somehow that's bad. And I don't think that's necessarily fair. So I think it is really normal for, like you said, for people to want to treat themselves based on a whole variety of reasons, because the way that we eat is often connected with our emotions, and, you know, it's often a coping mechanism and stuff like that. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong inherently. If actually you're in control of it and you know what you're doing, then, like,
I also think, like, generically people treat themselves on weekends. So, like, you'll have a lie-in, or you'll maybe, like, make time for stuff you wouldn't make time for in the week, or do you mean, like, and that just falls into that. So I think, like, I think that just falls into that category. Because people will, like, drink more on a weekend because you don't have to get up the next day, or they'll stay later at a friend's because you don't have to work the next day. So, like, you're treating yourself in lots of various ways generically over a weekend. So I guess food kind of just falls into that naturally.
I think for me personally, I tend to be busy. Like, I tend to be fairly busy over the weekend. So, like, often I don't really have time to think about food. Like, it's not really on my mind. Whereas I think during the week, sometimes I'm a bit more, like, I'm in my normal routine, so I've got a little bit more, like, brain space to be thinking about, like, I wonder what I'm going to eat for my next meal kind of thing.
I guess if the evenings are quieter, you might be, like, watching a movie and you're like, oh, let's have a snack with the movie, or do you mean, like...
I do think it's very normal, generally. And I think on a personal level it changes. Like, there's lots of different reasons why I might feel like I want something extra. But I think it's interesting though, isn't it? Because I think inherently calling it a treat makes it sound like there's something wrong with it. Like...
Or, like, special about it.
Which I guess is... That's kind of where the whole good versus bad thing came up for us, wasn't it? In terms of, like, actually wanting to have a wider conversation about whether it's normal to label food as good and bad. So should we segue into the main conversation?
Let's.
So what do you think? Do you think it's normal to label food good and bad?
I think it's really normal. I don't think it's particularly healthy.
Same.
I grew up with a mother who, like, the motto of her life is everything in moderation. So she would always have, like, some dairy milk, but she'd have, like, 2 or 3 squares. So she'd always have, like, something sweet after a meal, but, like, it would be small, it'd be in moderation. That worked really well for her. Even to the point where, like, she stopped drinking tea, because she was drinking tea, like, constantly. And she's like, oh, I'm addicted to tea. I'll have milk and water. So she'd have, like, boiling water with some milk in it. I was like, what? But you mean she's like, have to, like, you know, I gotta have that in moderation. Not to the point where it was, like, controlling at all. so I had a very healthy role model for that.
Yeah.
So food wasn't really like good or bad. But maybe I needed a bit more like some stuff's really bad for you. I don't think inherently food isn't good or bad. Like that's like saying colours or good or bad. Like colours are not good or bad. Like I don't like yellow, so I don't have much of it in my house. I love like pinks and greens. I have loads of them in my house. Like that doesn't make my house good or bad. It doesn't make the colour good or bad.
Yeah.
It's just what I like to see. And I think that almost like corresponds then to food. There are some things we like more, or some things we like less. What do you think?
So completely agree. Yes, I think it is very normal to label food good and bad, and yes, I don't think it's very healthy or very helpful to view food that way. My relationship with food has been fairly straightforward. Similarly, like as a family, we always ate fairly healthily. A lot of home cooked meals, lots of fruit and veg type thing. But was never super restricted as a child. Like had a fairly normal relationship with food. But I think you do just naturally pick up this good food, bad food. I mean, it's everywhere, isn't it? In terms of like that messaging. So, like, whilst I wouldn't say I agree with that, or I wouldn't say that's what I think, that messaging still is everywhere. Yeah. So like, it's hard to ignore that or not be aware of it. Yeah. But I think my relationship with food has developed more since being into fitness. So I think what's been helpful for me is seeing food as more fuel. Food is fuel. And actually, depending on it's like a car, isn't it? If you put if you put diesel into your petrol car, like it's not gonna go well. So the output isn't ideal. Yeah. Or it just like won't really operate the way that it's supposed to. And in a similar way, our bodies, like there are things that are better for us and worse for us in terms of health, in terms of the amount of energy it gives us, in terms of mental clarity, in terms of all that kind of stuff. And that's not to say that the stuff that's worse for our health is inherently wrong. It's just that if you're only eating stuff that's not great for your health and then not feeling great, that's probably why. Yeah. So I think for me it's been a learning process of understanding that like my output is quite heavily related to my input. So if I've got headaches all day, it's probably because I'm not feeling myself well. Do you know what I mean? And I think the positive thing about viewing food like that is that it gives you quite a lot of agency over your food, because you're thinking about, okay, what kind of output am I looking to have at the moment? So like for me at the moment, I'm in a cut phase, but I'm also trying to build some muscle, so I'm eating loads of protein because that's the input that I need, the fuel that my body needs to do the thing that I want it to do. Yeah. In the same way that like if you're doing a marathon, people carb load for like days before because your body needs the energy to be able to perform that function. And I think that's why I say fitness has been such a massive thing for me when it comes to food, is because making that connection of like how I perform when I run, how I perform when I lift in the gym, is actually directly related to what I put in my body. Whether that's having a coffee and a couple of squares of chocolate a couple of hours before I go for a run, that's still fueling my body, even though it's chocolate and coffee, which, you know, I'm not saying those things are bad because I'm literally saying food is fuel. But if you were to ask people whether they think chocolate is good or bad, I'm pretty sure most people would say bad, right? That's is that caveated enough? So like, but that can still be fuel in the right circumstances. When you're looking for that output that is linked to that particular food, it's still fuel. Do you see what I'm saying? So like, sometimes sugar is great, sometimes salt is great. When you're running loads, you sweat, so you get out, your body like releases quite a lot of salt into your sweat.
Yeah.
So you have to. That's why people drink electrolytes when they're like running, because it's basically just replenishing the salt that your body gets rid of. But like, you know, salt, like loads of salt on your chips or something, probably not the best for your health. But like, do you see what I'm saying? So it's like contextual about what your body needs. And also it is just balance, isn't it? I think this is the like repetitive thing about these podcasts, is that it is about balance, and particularly when it comes to food, moderation is so useful. Like, it's such a good tool if you can master it well. Because there are so many pitfalls when it comes to food. There are so many, like, it's actually not, from like a health point of view, it's actually not that good for your body to eat no fat. Particularly for women, it like really impacts your hormones. So like a low to no fat diet isn't ideal. Equally, a really high fat diet might not be ideal. Equally, it might work for one person and not work for a different person. And when I say diet, I mean the type of food you eat, not trying to lose weight. So I think the tricky thing with a lot of this is that depending on who you ask, or what book you read, or what Instagrammer you follow, your understanding of what is good or bad, what types of diets are healthy or not healthy, will be completely different. Because there are so many different opinions out there that do make it a bit of a minefield if you're trying to find like objective truth.
It gets really
almost.
overwhelming, doesn't it? And I guess in some ways it's like not an objective truth, because what you're saying about like output, like some people want different output. So some people might want to gain loads of weight, some people might want to lose weight, some people might want to like you say, you know, gain muscle, or say like they're in rehab for like, you know, OT rehab. Like, you know, there's not one wrong or right way of doing something, because the outcome you want might be different from other people.
Like, you wouldn't put airplane fuel into a car. I assume they have different types of fuel. I don't know. I don't know anything about these kind of things. But like, or like, you wouldn't put AA batteries in a car. In the fuel thing. Do you know what I mean? Like,
but also like the stages of life you're in. So actually, you know, losing weight when you're 16 will look very different to losing weight when you're 60, or gaining weight will look different in different areas. And like, you know, if you're pregnant, and you know, that's a whole different minefield. And if like, you know, and like time of the month you're at, that's a whole different minefield of what you need, like nutrients wise. So like, there's just not one hard and fast rule. And like, for men and women as well, there's so many different things that our bodies do. Like, fueling them also looks different. Also, if like you're vegan, that'll look different to how you, like, you know, feed your body if you're a carnivore, because obviously you need to amp up, you know, different parts. Like the iron part of your diet needs to be more focused. Do you mean like there's just not one hard and fast rule of how to eat right? I think the problem I have with labeling food as good or bad is the shame that comes from it. Like, I think I have friends or people who I've known previously in my life where there's just so much shame around eating something that's quote unquote bad. So it's like, you go out for pizza, and if they eat pizza, they literally hate themselves for a day or two. And I'm like, that to me just feels like such an unfair way to live. Like, you're supposed to be out having a good time with your friends, your family, whatever it may be, and then you see something that you think is, you label as bad, but there's no other option. Like, you're at a pizza place, you're eating pizza, there's not like, you know, a different option, and then you spend the next 2 or 3 days literally hating yourself and shaming yourself because you had some pizza to eat because there wasn't another option, instead of being like, oh, that was a lovely, wonderful memory with a friend. You've just gone down like a rabbit hole of self-hatred. And I think that's a really hard thing to watch people go through. And you know, the whole like having calories on menu thing. I know, like, so I used to work with people sometimes who had eating disorders, like young teenagers, and I'll speak to their parents and they were like, it's just ruined, like, going out for meals now, because they used to not be able to know the calories, so like it was almost a bit freer for them in a way, like,
yeah, sure,
they could go eat as, like, you know, whatever they might deem as good food, and they wouldn't know the exact calorie content, and that was almost a good thing, whereas now they feel like they can't even enjoy that anymore. So like that was like a negative thing for people who struggle with eating, because I know it's supposed to be for people wanting to make healthier choices, but it's actually probably not affected them as much, and it's affected the category of people who really struggle with eating. Yeah, because it comes back to bad and good, and less calories is good to some people and more calories is bad to some people, and then you're caught in a bit of a shame spiral if you then go for the quote unquote bad option. How would you define bad? Like, what is that helpful to talk about? I'm not sure.
I thought that earlier, in terms of like what kind of things would you label as bad, but I don't know if that's a bit too
and I think everyone's
specific.
got different categories, or like different understandings of what that would be. Like, I know someone who like views butter as bad, so they wouldn't put butter on something, whereas I know other people who think butter's great because it's that like like if they use the right word, it's like that natural fat, so they're like, that's great, chuck some butter on toast with, you know, whatever, avocado, which is also a natural fat, but like if you look, do you mean like it's just such a...
But again, I think what's tricky about that is that those are maybe like just assumed labels.
Yeah.
Like, I'm very much the kind of person that's like, I want to understand why. Like, I want to know like the background as to, so why is that healthy or not healthy, or good for my body or not good for my body, or useful in this context or not useful in this context, rather than, I think it's dangerous when like we just take on other people's opinions and like just go with the flow and be like, oh yeah, chocolate, bad, right? Just because that's what you've been told, or just what, do you know what I'm saying? It's not very measured, is it? Because like literally in that scenario you're talking about, someone thinks butter's the good option, someone thinks, say, margarine is the better option. They both have reasons for thinking that, but maybe those labels are just like assumed, or what they've heard or whatever.
Because like, so for example, like my mum would be, I'd rather have a full fat something than a diet something, because what are they even putting in the diet thing? She's like, I would rather not have the chemicals that's in the diet thing and just have the full fat option. So like, but it goes back to that thing, there's no wrong or right, like there's no, like what looks good for some people won't look good for other people, or what.
And I think the key thing to recognise in that is that like most of that is contextual to the person. So as in like, it's not necessarily that like there may be particular things that someone is looking for from food that mean that it's a better choice for them based on what their goals are, what their body type is like, what's available to them locally. What I'm trying to say is that I do think there are healthier options and less healthy options in terms of like better for your body function generally. Like if you were to eat the same quantity of the things, then yes, there might be one option that is technically healthier for your body. So what I'm trying to say is that like there is objective truth within this conversation about like what's healthier, like fruit or chocolate, right? I'm pretty sure most people would say fruit's healthier. So like,
and then you hear something on the internet that's like, when fruit's blended, because it like breaks down the sucrose, then if you have a smoothie you're literally just drinking sugar. So like this is what the point you made earlier of like anything you see on the internet, like you have one person backing something and another person saying like, no, that's the worst thing ever. So I used to have like, I'd have a smoothie for breakfast, and then her name name's a glucose goddess, and her whole thing was like, you have to have a savoury breakfast. You can't have it. You'll have like a crash later on the day if you have sugar in the morning. Having like blended fruit is literally just drinking sugar. So you shouldn't have that. You should have, if you don't want to spike later on in the day, you should have. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, literally, still probably a better option than chocolate or whatever it might be. Like, we are also trying not to label food as good or bad. So like, but it's also really like nuanced to have a conversation about food without talking about actual foods.
But like, completely see that. Can we just put that on hold for like 2 seconds?
Yeah.
So if we were to say chocolate versus fruit, chocolate versus an apple, same amount of each.
Yeah.
Which one is technically healthier for your body, better for your body function? Probably the fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what I'm trying to say is that like, so there is objective truth there about like some fruits being technically better for body function, for the health of your body, etc., etc., etc. But depending on who you put that in front of, that may well not actually be the way that they view it. So, for example, if one person, if it is like, if we're talking about like eating disorders and stuff, it might not be the healthier choice for them to choose the fruit.
Yeah.
Because it might be, that might come from a restrictive mindset. It might come from, oh, well, I'll hate myself if I eat the chocolate, so blah, 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 or whatever. So this is what I'm trying to say, is that like, there is, and this is the tricky thing with food, there is objective truth in there about like what our bodies function best on, but there is also the like psychological side of it, the mental side of it, where like, and also and to some degree the health side of it, because if you've only like, because like I said, fat is good for you in moderation, in the right amounts. Fat is good for you, so depending on who you're asking and what context they are in and what their life looks like and what their history looks like, there's objective truth there, but there's also some subjective truth about what's the best option for that individual. I think that's what I'm trying to say, because I don't want to just go through this whole conversation being like, oh, it just depends on who you are, without acknowledging that like, of course there are foods that are healthier or less healthy. That doesn't mean that they are good or bad.
Because even that phrasing alone, like, even if you're someone who struggles with food and you call a food healthier or less healthy, I think that's even better as like a neutrality point of view than good or bad. Like, for example, I won't label a day, when I'm trying not to label a day as good or bad. Yeah. Like, I try and either put like an emotion to the day or say like there has been good and bad. Like, so I had a day on Friday, I was overwhelmed, but I had a lovely meal with a friend. Like, there is no wholly good or wholly bad thing literally ever. Like, people like they're just not. And I think so when it comes to a day and saying like, I've had a bad day, you then like put that day in a box and you can't see any good in it or any positivity in it. Whereas like when it comes to food, I think labelling, it's that thing of like, actually it's not bad in the right context or in the right amount. There are healthier or less healthy options, and that kind of labelling is probably more helpful than good or bad, because there's not as much shame with it, I would imagine.
And there's in like the fitness world, there's another way of labelling food which I find really helpful, which is nutritionally dense and not nutritionally dense.
Yes, I like that.
So like fruit and veg, nutritionally dense. They have got lots of nutrients in them, lots of goodness that fill your body well and are natural.
And like actually fill you up.
Fill you up. Also, nutritionally dense and not nutritionally dense does tend to also correlate to volume. Yeah. So like you say, fruit and veg will fill you up. It's volume food because there's lots of it for like minimal calories kind of thing.
Like the weight of... Again, don't want to like give food to the...
Oh my gosh. Well, but fruit or veg, the weight of fruit or veg, for the weight, it's less calories.
But more...
But volume. And also more nutrition. Yeah. So that's a good thing. It's good that you can
will be fuller for longer because you can get more volume for the same amount of like calories.
Because calories, I know they get a bit of stick, but calories is just a measurement of energy. Yeah. It's just how much energy will that food give you. With not nutritionally dense food, they tend to have more calories like for the weight, but also they have less nutritional value in them. So that's another way of labelling food that changes that dynamic between good and bad and just labels them for what they are. It's, well, that one's full of nutrition and goodness, that one is less full of nutrition and goodness, but that doesn't change, it doesn't make them good or bad, it just means that they're just different. And they're useful in different contexts and for different reasons. Because like one might be really good at, you can eat a lot of it and it will fill you up. One might taste really good, and that's great. The uses are different.
We give context to stuff, don't we? And the language we use kind of dictates how we see things. The issue with food is that it's an everyday thing. Like, you can't get away from it. If we're talking like 3 meals and 2 snacks, whatever, you know, the suggested guidelines are, that's a lot of your day. That's a lot of your time. That's a lot of your thoughts. That's a lot of your like emotional capacity or like emotional load is thinking about that, thinking about the next meal, thinking about what I'm going to cook, as a means to survive. Like, you have to eat. Like, there is no other way of looking at that. So for something that is in our lives so much, like, we do have to pay attention to it and how we view it and what we do with that. And I think, you know, part of people who struggle with eating or have like slightly disordered eating, a lot of the people I know or have known or have worked with, it has not been about necessarily the way we look. Like, it might be like a percentage of it, but like, I think a lot of it has been control, like wanting to be in control. I'm not in control of my life, but this is something I can control. I can control how many calories I can consume. I can control how much exercise I can do. Like, that's in my power. And like, that makes sense, but it makes it so difficult because food is an everyday thing. Like, you can't escape from it, because once you go down that kind of that route of I'm going to use food as a source of control, it then gets really hard to give that up. And you then have to recover from that. Like, it's almost like an addiction, because the cognition in your brain then changes. Like, so you have to do a whole bunch of work to then come out of that kind of rabbit hole. And I think, like, when you are in starvation mode, when you're not giving your body the nutrients it needs, it literally goes on low power mode. Like, my phone, when I want to save battery, I put it on low power mode. Body is not functioning well if you're starving yourself. I think this whole like thing of, you can look at someone and think, oh, they're really fit and healthy, and you can look at another person and be like, oh no, they're not healthy because they're overweight. Like, that's not the case in so many situations. Like, small doesn't equal healthy and big doesn't equal unhealthy. You cannot see people's insides. And I think like it's just helpful when people are honest about what they're going through. Like, I was in a car the other day with 2 other girls, and like, the woman who was talking was like really, like, she's really petite. I don't know, like 30s or something. And she was saying, like, I think about food all the time. She was like, I am constantly thinking about food. Like, are you guys, do you do that? Like, that's quite a struggle for her. And I was like, not really. Like, I might think, oh, what should I make for dinner, from a practical point of view of like, what do I need to get for dinner? But there are people whose like minds are literally consumed 24/7 about food. So I never want to say anything that's like gonna make that worse for them as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, I would hate for someone to listen to the podcast and be like, oh, they're talking about me, or I should feel shame because I think about it all the time. Like, that's not what I'm saying at all. And I think like, I think we've got like a lot of love for people, and it's more that I guess I want people to know there's more out there than fitting a norm.
And also that like struggling with it is normal. Or not normal as in like, oh, I'm not being dismissive. Normal as in like, you're not alone. As we say every episode, this is just like our experience, isn't it? And also like, I think it's important for people to see us like wrestle through some of these things and say something and be like, oh no, I don't mean it in that way, I mean it in this way, because that's how nuanced and complicated these conversations are. And that's why we often don't talk about them.
Yeah.
Is because there is no like easy way to talk about them,
Yeah.
because there's so many factors in it. And that in itself is valuable to point out, that like the reason why we're potentially tripping over what we're trying to say is because it is all subjective, and it's just so complicated, isn't it? And it's not the same for each individual person. But hopefully, again, like, it starts a conversation, and it gives like permission to talk about it, and to trip over it in conversation, and it not be straightforward.
Because actually the other person in the car, I was like sometimes, but like not loads, kind of like, you know, which is true, because it again depends on so many different facets in my life. But the person who was next to me was like, literally all the time, like I also think about it like all the time. I was like, that's interesting, but nice that they had that, like, not nice. And they feel validated, and you're like, like, what does that look like for you? What is it like, you know, is there anything you do to help you with that, And I thought that was really sweet, like a sweet moment that they could share in that. If you know people who struggle with the same stuff as you can chat to them, can't you?
I guess maybe that's a good place to move into. Are there any things that you do that you think help when it comes to not labelling food good and bad? Do you have language that you would use? I know we talked about like healthier, less healthy, nutritionally dense, less nutritionally dense.
No, like, I just don't think about it that much. Like,
that's fair.
To the extent I should probably think about it more, because I should make better choices. For me, it's social occasions. So it's like, if I see a friend, there's probably some element of food in it. Because it's what you do with people you love. You break bread together, don't you? Like, you go, like, you know, you go for food, or you're celebrating something, or I think like everyone's got their food battles. In different ways. I don't think mine's labelling. I think mine's probably like maybe like more emotion led, or like boredom led. Labelling's just not something I particularly struggle with, but I do have food struggles. So I'm not saying like, do you know what I mean? I'm not like, I don't know what you're talking about, I've got a really healthy relationship with food. I'm not saying that. I don't like labelling. And my mother never, like my parents, like, I just didn't come from a home of like, you know, the whole like almond mum thing. That wasn't what I was brought up on. So like, so I've heard it culturally, but not like in my home. I think I'm coming around to more of like a healthy way of thinking about food. But it's all a journey, and it's all a process, and it all takes a lot of time, and like some days are better than others. Some days I'm like, oh, I felt like I, you know, did well there, or sometimes like, oh, I let a bit loose there, but like, it's all ebbs and flows, isn't it? And like, I'm not gonna be like, if I'm having a really hard mental health day and I go over my like, you know, calorie input that is the ideal for my height and weight, whatever, I'm not gonna add on top of that like beating myself up.
No.
Like, I'm already having a hard time. I don't want to be then like, oh, Rach, you're so stupid or greedy or because you ate this or that. Like, I don't have the capacity to bully myself on top of the stuff I'm already being harsh to myself for.
For me, it's language. So the nutritionally dense thing has been really helpful for me, and fuel, like understanding, like I said earlier, like what different types of food, like what their value is. Because like all different types of food have value. The value just might be, for one thing, it might be the value is I really like it. It tastes really good. Or the value might be
well, like, it's a birthday cake, you're celebrating someone.
It's like a shared experience with someone. Or the value might be, actually, it fuels me for my run, or it might be, it fuels me to build muscle, or it, like, do you know what I mean? There's so many different ways that food can be valuable, and I think for me that's been really helpful, is like seeing what it adds, what everything adds, rather than like, oh, that's like a negative thing. So like seeing what all these different foods add, rather than almost seeing it as like taking away from something. And I'm not saying that my relationship with food is perfect either. I don't think it's particularly bad. I think I've got a fairly reasonable relationship with food. The gym has massively helped for me because it puts food into some kind of context. because like, and like I'm doing a qualification towards like PT and all that kind of stuff, so like understanding, having that like knowledge, getting a bit of understanding, a bit of context of like, if I want this output, what input do I need, that kind of mentality. And I think that's really useful because I do go through phases with my training, as in like I'll be in a cut phase or a build phase or whatever, which does mean that I change my relationship with food.
Yeah. So you don't get stuck in like a rut or like a cognition that's not very helpful.
Yeah. But within that, my perspective on food doesn't change. I'm just using food as a tool to control my output, if that makes sense. So like, I would still view food as valuable in different ways. And I think for me, language like that doesn't align with my goals is really helpful, because it changes it from that food is a permanently bad food. Whenever, at any point in my life, that food will be bad. It changes it from that, which is a restrictive way of thinking, which actually makes us just want it more, ironically.
Just what we can't have.
Changes it to, actually, in this moment in my life, that food doesn't align with my goals right now. The output that I want, this equation doesn't add up. So actually, I'm not going to eat that now, but there might be a point in time when actually it does align with my goals to eat that food. Do you see what I'm saying? So seeing food as fuel, seeing it as a tool, seeing it as that input that creates an output, for me has been really helpful. I appreciate that if you're not in the gym and you're not like training or wanting any particular like outputs, that's a little bit more complicated. It still applies though. Mental clarity, that's an output that you can influence via food. Energy, do you know what I mean? Like all of the, like better sleep, all these things, your input does change that output. I feel like I've just said input and output like 5 billion times. But that's probably been like the most helpful thing for me. And also just like simplifying my relationship with food a little bit. I went through a phase when I was first training of, I had a couple of cookbooks that were like high protein cookbooks, because if you are in the gym, it's very likely that protein is a goal of yours. And for the sake of that output of like muscle maintenance, muscle building, that kind of stuff. And I went through a phase of like most lunches or dinners was like a recipe. So I'd batch cook stuff, but it would all be like recipes that are quite particular, you know, with all these various different sauces and I don't know, all these different ingredients and stuff. And it was just a lot of like mental load to like plan all of that and remember all of that, and it was quite complicated then when like, oh, I'm out of one ingredient, how do I now record this food? Because I do track my food quite a lot, again because I'm tracking it for the sake of the output. But more recently I've just not really bothered with that, and I think about protein source, carb source, and some form of like veg or fruit or something like that. So like simplifying that has given me a bit more space to like fully realise, food's just fuel. Actually, if my dinner tonight is some beef that I cooked 2 days ago and a pitta, cool. Like I'm alright with that. Like it's not, I'm not like overjoyed, it not being my like joy, not necessarily being based on what food I'm eating, because I think for me, like I love food, like I really enjoy food, but like being okay to just eat what's there and be like, cool, my body's fueled, that's the goal of this meal, is to fuel my body.
I literally the other week just had jack potato 5 times in a row because I was just like, cool,
why not?
Because I'm not someone, you know, like foodies who are like every meal has to be special. I'm not that person. Like I can have a jack potato with cheese and beans, cool. And then one day it was tuna, one day it was beans, one day it was tuna. Because I was just like, I've got it to use up, like I'll just use it up. And I guess the repetitiveness isn't a problem for me necessarily. So like,
and I think that's I do think that's really valid when it comes to like good and bad. Is like loosening the grip on like food has to be interesting, or it has to be like exciting,
Yeah.
or like new or different or whatever. Like on repetitive days in work, like sometimes in work I'll have like batch cooked food, and I'll be in the office like say 3 days in a row, and I'll have the same lunch each day, but I might go and get myself like a slightly different coffee to what I would get normally, or like I know it sounds really stupid, but like I don't think I can say that on a podcast.
Really?
Might use a different highlighter. But I trying to find that novelty or that interest or that joy, seeing that it doesn't just have to come from food. It can come from loads of different things. Like life is interesting beyond food.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's just me that's like a realization for, but like, yeah, my work day being good doesn't depend on
If you want
me being
lunch.
excited for lunch.
Yeah.
Like, it's fine, it's just fuel, it's all
Yeah.
good. It's not that deep.
Yeah.
And also, there are points in our life where health just, like, being in peak physical condition might just not be the goal.
Yeah.
Like, it's not number one priority.
Yeah.
Because someone might not be the most healthy that they've ever been, regardless of what that looks like on them, but it might not be their top priority in that moment. In which case, they might be fine with the fact that they're not in, like, peak.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I think health is a very logical goal in terms of, like, longevity and in terms of good
Like,
quality of life.
Like that previous study we did of like the longevity study, like health and happiness comes from fulfilling relationships.
Yeah.
Like the majority, like, go back and listen to our episode on that. But like the majority, it was the Scared of Growing Older one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But like actually the majority of like our joy and happiness and health comes from really good, fulfilling, long-term relationships.
Yeah.
In that sense, I'm healthy as hell. Like,
yeah.
so I think just to put someone's health down to a size is really reductive.
Yeah.
Because they mentally, they might look smaller, but mentally they're having a huge struggle every single day about what to eat.
It might be that actually looking after their kids' health is number one priority right now.
Yeah.
Or it might be that looking after their finances is number one priority. Or they might be after a promotion. Or they might be... Do you know what I mean? Like, we only have a limited amount of capacity and a limited amount of priorities, because otherwise it's literally not a priority.
Yeah.
So, like, those change as we go through life.
And if you're stressed, if you're grieving, if you're, like, going through... Yeah, like you say, going through all them different things in life, like... Sometimes, like, something's gonna slip.
Yeah.
And, like, that doesn't mean you're not healthy just because you've...
Or it might slip, or you might choose that it's not the priority.
Yeah.
So, like, because you're saying negative things, like grieving and, like, struggling and whatever, completely valid. Also, you might be like, actually, I don't have capacity to do all of these things, to focus on all of these things. So, like, yeah, health's not a priority right now. As in, like, I'm not going to do anything, like, crazily detrimental to my health. But, like, it's fine for it to just, like, tick over. It doesn't need to... I don't need to be in the gym 4 times a week. I don't need to be doing X, Y, Z. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like, that just might not be number one.
Yeah.
And that's fine. So I think, like, in summary, it's... I feel like we say this every episode. It is normal.
It's all about balance.
I think, like... Definitely societally and culturally, like, labelling food as good and bad is, like, that's quite common. It's like understanding that there is logic behind that in terms of, like, stuff maybe being, like I said, healthier, less healthy, nutritionally dense, less nutritionally dense. I think where, like, shame starts to come into it, like we've talked about, or where it turns into, like, those labels control you and control the way that you act around your relationship with food. That's where it gets really complicated. But like I say, it is really complicated. Like, relationships with food is so, like, it's such a minefield in terms of, like, talking about it. So if we have been a little bit all over the place, that's why. It's because we're trying to express our experience without, like, necessarily, like, affecting other people's experience, and not trying to, like, dismiss people or be reductive or whatever, but equally, like, we hope that this just starts a conversation once again as normal. So, yeah, if you do struggle with labelling food as good and bad, like, you're not alone. Absolutely normal. And I think it's something that lots of people struggle with. also, if you don't label food good and bad, and if actually you've got a really healthy relationship with food, that's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I think sometimes we as a society, this is a massive generalization, but like maybe we do kind of glorify problems a little bit in terms of like, oh yeah, I'm not perfect, I have all these issues and blah blah blah. Like, if you don't have them, great. Yeah. That's amazing. That's such a healthy place to be in. 100%. Like, that's so good. So like, if all of this kind of goes over your head, that's like so good.
We do have 8 other episodes if you'd like to listen to them instead.
But I think that's the thing. We're not trying to like glorify the problems or glorify these things that we're asking, is it normal? So we're not glorifying overthinking or whatever. We're just trying to like create connection.
And the other thing we're trying to do is start conversations. Yeah. Because like, one of the, you know, tips or tricks or whatever you might want to call it when it comes to labelling food good or bad is to talk to other people about it. Because again, 100%. Like, the cultures and the homes that we grow up in, it might have been not a big deal, or it might be the biggest deal, and like, you don't know what's not normal unless you're talking to people about what's normal for them, and like, or perceived as normal. So actually talking to people you trust and people you love, and like, oh, what do you think about this, or how would you struggle with this? Like, I had a friend open up to me about it recently, and like, I'm so grateful that she did, because now I can be really mindful of like, when we're in group settings, maybe not talking about certain things or avoiding certain topics, or like, you know, giving her different treatment in a like not obvious way about it. I can be really mindful of that now, so that I'm not hurting her more or doing or saying anything that is going to be triggering to her health journey. So like, open up to your friends about it, talk to people about it, like have a little chat in the office about it, or like, you know, speak to your parents about it, or your siblings, or whoever you've got in your life, and be like, oh, I heard this thing the other day, what do you think about that? Like, you don't even have to say, I'm really struggling with this. You can just be like, what do you think about that? And then you can have a conversation about it and just open up about it.
And sometimes when we do open up, someone else offers their opinion or their perspective, and you might never have thought about it that way. And sometimes even just, if like for me, sometimes even just realising that like, my perspective is just that, it's just my perspective. Whereas like, to me it feels like, surely everyone thinks that way, or surely that's the case for everyone. But a lot of time it's not. It's a result of our upbringing, it's a result of our culture, it's a result of the things that happen to come up on our Instagrams, etc, etc. And actually someone else may not ever have thought about it like that. And you hearing them say that to you might just relieve a little bit of that pressure and help you to kind of like contextualise your opinion and your perspective and your experience. And
also, like, if you are really struggling, then like, please seek help. Like, whether that's a GP, whether that's a close friend, like, you don't have to spend your whole life struggling. There are options out there. There are services, there are people who care and want to help, and who are knowledgeable and have the tools to help.
Absolutely.
So if you are struggling, please seek that out.
Cool. Well, thank you for listening, everyone. If you would like to listen to our future episodes, make sure you follow us. You can follow us on Spotify, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all at the Is It Normal podcast. Don't forget, you can also email us if you'd like to submit a question at theisitnormalpodcast@gmail.com. Make sure to let us know if you want to be anonymous or if you'd like a little shout out. But we will see you next time.
Woo!
Bye everyone.
Bye guys.